Well, the reality is this city has never been afraid to try something new and to show the world what's possible. And here at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, it is no different. We are pushing the boundaries of innovation, and we're bringing the same spirit to public safety with technology that will change policing here at home and will also set a standard globally for police departments worldwide. I'm Assistant Sheriff Dory Korn at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I oversee our Homeland Security and Investigative Services group, which includes much of our proactive use of technology to combat crime and terrorism. Last year, I stood before you and we talked about the launch of our drone project, and we called it Project Blue Sky. I specifically discussed one of Sheriff Kevin Mayhill's top priorities, which is to make the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department one of the most technologically advanced police departments in the country. With Project Blue Sky, we're not only meeting this challenge, but we're pushing it even further. And quite frankly, we're setting the tone and establishing a new global standard. Project Blue Sky began in October of 2024 with the launch of our mobile Drones as a First Responder program, or for short, Mobile DFR. In this first phase, officers carried drones in their vehicles and launched them directly in the field as they responded to calls for service. The results in just 8 months have been remarkable. The team has flown more than 1,100 missions, and of these missions, there were 169 incidents where suspects were located by drone pilots, and 386 arrests where drone pilots provided critical support to our officers in the field. These aren't just test flights. These are real missions, producing real results and saving lives in our community. This success gave us the foundation to move into phase 2, which is the purpose of today's press conference. We are now launching our remote DFR program. This is where the real leap begins. See, instead of launching drones from patrol officers' vehicles, drones will now be staged across the city on top of police and fire stations in what we call skyports. Each of these skyports is designed as a hive of 3 docked drones. Now let me explain a little bit more detail. When a drone is in the air, the others stay docked, automatically charging and downloading mission data. If the battery runs low on a drone, another drone can launch and take its place. This means continuous coverage with no downtime. And while the drones launch and land automatically, every flight is piloted by a trained operator, remotely from a centralized location. So when a call for help comes in, and someone in our community is requesting police services, we can put a drone overhead almost in seconds, guided by a skilled pilot. And with 13 skyports being installed, we'll have coverage in nearly all of our key areas across the valley. Some of these skyports are mounted on flat rooftops, while others will be on purpose-built structures designed specifically for this mission. I want to take a moment and talk about our drone fleet because it is quite impressive. Today, LVMPD operates 75 drones, thanks to a first-of-its-kind public-private partnership with Skydio and the generosity of community donors. Skydio is one of America's leading drone manufacturers, and this partnership has allowed us to build one of the most advanced fleets in the world. As you can see here on this screen, one of the flagship drones that we are operating now as a part of this remote DFR program is a Skydio X10 dock drone. These dock drones are climate controlled, always charged, always connected, and mission ready 24/7. And it's not just the drones. This partnership also made it possible to build these skyports. And I'll be very clear, these aren't just launch pads. From my perspective, these are gateways to the sky. A connected network that allows us to establish a police presence and help prevent violence in seconds. What, from my perspective, once sounded like science fiction, maybe something from like the Jetsons, really is now becoming a reality here in Las Vegas as we push the limits of technology. And with it comes faster response times, better decision-making for our officers, and ultimately more lives saved. But technology alone isn't enough. That's not the only part. The other part is the human piece. And to that end, we have some incredible drone pilots. We also have a program manager who is leading this program, Steve Oscar, who's done a tremendous amount of work and has had a lot of success developing this program. And with that, our drone pilots include a mix of commissioned officers and civilian specialists that represent the first generation of remote police aviators in America. All of these pilots go through state-certified training, advanced simulations, and rigorous mission standards before they can fly a drone in the field. I want to take a moment and stress something that's very important to this agency and very important to the community that we briefly talked about last time as well, which is ensuring that we also protect privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties as we advance these technology projects. And the reality is Project Blue Sky is built on transparency and accountability. Every flight is logged, audited, and tied to an active incident. We have strict policies in place to protect privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties. And that includes detailed training, data retention rules, and a philosophy of self-limitation. We want to push the boundaries on innovation, but we also want to make sure we do it with public trust in mind. Just want to kind of wrap up here with the formal remarks and just conclude by saying Project Blue Sky is not just the technology. I know that if you look at that image of our fleet that shows the 75 drones and some very advanced drones that we have, in fact, my wife jokingly said it kind of looks like Star Wars, and that's the goal. We want to push the boundaries and show this community that we can do something really special to help save lives. But the reality is this is not just a technology project. It's about smarter, faster, and safer policing. And that commitment, that promise that was made by Sheriff Kevin McMahill is about saving lives, protecting officers, and ensuring that the taxpayers get the most effective services possible. So as I mentioned in the beginning, Las Vegas has always been bold enough to kind of take that first step, to try things that are new, really lead the way, and to do things that maybe a lot of other cities and communities have yet to imagine. And with Project Blue Sky, we're doing just that. We're not waiting for the future of policing. We're building it here in Las Vegas. And in doing so, I think we're going to set an expectation for law enforcement across the globe. With that, I do want to just show a quick video that highlights what the mobile or remote DFR program looks like, and then from there we can take questions. As you see in that video, it's a showcase a little bit of what we're trying to do. Ultimately, as we finish building out the sites, as well as those skyports that I talked about, and we'll be fully operational hopefully by the end of the year, it's going to look even more magical. So ultimately with that, I can take some questions. Yes, ma'am.
Kristen Drummond with News 3. Where will the drone pilots be piloting these drones? And correct me if I'm wrong, you need to have eyes on the drones according to the FAA?
So excellent question. So the first question is, where are these drones going to be piloted from, where the pilots are going to be housed? And the second question is the limitations from the FAA on whether you need visual line of sight on a drone. So a couple things. One is they will be piloted remotely from a centralized location. We're still in the process of building out exactly what that part looks like. We are going to be updating the public as soon as that's done. But ultimately, it will be in a centralized location where our drone operations will be flown from. Now, the second part is very important, and this is where our program manager, Steve Oscar, has done some tremendous work, is we have some very special certificates of authorization with the FAA that allow the police, but primarily us here at LVMPD, some of the most advanced COAs, certificates of authorizations, that opens up the airspace and allows us to use drones for this purpose. So in other words, it's different than what the public can do with the limitations on the airspace for safety purposes. But police, we have a specific type of authorization that allows us to operate these drones for public safety needs. And we've, quite frankly, a little breaking news internally for us is we had enough to be able to fly beyond visual line of sight and to be able to fly in most of the locations we needed to. But as of just today, this morning, the FAA granted us our final authorization to open up the airspace to make this program even more of a reality. Yes, sir.
Are we going to know, are you going to release the locations of where these 13 hubs will be?
So we can, down the road, we can look at releasing where the coverage is, but the specific locations of where the technology is installed is a safety issue, right? So we don't want anyone compromising the technology. But once we have the coverage mapped out and we know exactly where there is coverage, we can look at releasing some kind of maps that show that.
What
yes, sir.
Cities, if any, already have this in place, and how effective is it?
So other cities are trying to do a lot of this. But ours is, in my opinion, the most advanced. In fact, we're probably competing against NYPD. It's a little bit of a rivalry going on of who's going to have the most advanced drone program in the world. And quite frankly, I think we're ahead, and I think we'll remain ahead. I say that a little jokingly, but that's our goal. Ultimately, this level of being able to have this many docked drones that can access the vast majority of our coverage areas in the city. I mean, the goal is to be able to cover anywhere where someone needs police services. That is the first of its kind. There's other cities that were maybe earlier, but it only had one drone and very small police departments in maybe rural areas or areas that aren't as congested. But this, to this level in a big city like ours, is going to be the first. Yes, sir.
Just on the privacy question, are there limitations on what types of crime these drones can be responding to, whether it's obviously, chasing someone down who is fleeing from a scene versus, an unlawful assembly being declared during a protest? What are the limitations on when it can be used?
So right now we're limiting it to a call for service where someone is requesting police services. But what's important to that is also we're finding other ways, when I talked about self-limitation, to make sure that we do only what the public would expect us to do. So something as simple as when the drone launches from its initial location to go to a call for service, the camera that technically is normally pointed downwards and continue to film basically on the way, we have our own procedures where that camera automatically flips up and doesn't record unnecessary data. And then on top of that, we have retention policies to make sure we're not retaining data that we don't need for the purpose of, providing police services. Yes, ma'am.
Piggybacking off that question, what types of calls do you anticipate that these dock drones will respond to primarily?
So Sheriff Kevin McMahill made it very clear when we wanted to push these technology ideas, and he had this goal in mind, is the focus is saving lives. There's other focuses where we want to try to be more efficient and save taxpayer costs, make it a little faster for police response. But at the end of the day, we want to save lives. So to that end, right now, our focus is going to be on violent calls. But if there's a call for service and we have a drone available and we can assist, we will do that as well. The other thing that's interesting is it's not just a police effort. This is also a fire effort. So when the fire department, which is also using drones for safety purposes, will be able to provide support. And some of the skyports will actually be on top of fire stations. Yes, sir.
Does this new initiative have any connection to the FBI's recent summer heat operation, or are you guys planning to help the FBI as well with this technology here in Las Vegas?
So, we have multiple initiatives going on at once. As fighting violent crime, which is that summer initiative that you're talking about, is always a priority. We've had some success. At one point, we were down 32% in homicides, and this is year after year reductions. We're in our third year in a row on reducing homicides. So, fighting violent crime will always be a part of everything we do. This operation is a little different than this initiative that we have going on, but down the road, will you see parallels where drones are assisting in violent calls? Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
For the community who may be concerned if they do see one of your drones flying over their property or near their property, what do you say to the community if some are concerned about privacy or they think there's something with their data or something's going to be obtained?
So a couple things. The question is what would we say to the community that might be concerned when they see one of these police drones flying overhead? Well, one is we also have our police helicopters that are still in operation, and a lot of times when people see the police helicopter, they at least have some sense of comfort that the police are there and there's a presence. We're hoping that the same feeling would get for these drones. In other words, we're hoping that if there's something violent going on or someone needs police services and someone sees a drone, hopefully they'll get a sense of comfort by knowing that the police is there faster. But with that said, we also have the privacy limitations to also add some comfort where the cameras will not be recording any unnecessary data on the route to the call for service, and then they will not be maintaining any data unless it's related to something that we need to keep.
And will the drones be marked so the public knows that that is a Metro drone and not a random person's drone?
I appreciate the question, which is, are the drones going to be marked so people know that they are police drones? And the answer is yes. They have red and blue lights that will be activated. Yes, sir.
Can you tell me a little bit about the total cost with the 75 drones and building these 13 hubs? And also, what does a charge look like if someone was to destroy a drone?
So a couple questions in terms of the costs associated with this program, and then also any kind of penalties associated if someone decided to try to, damage a drone. First and foremost, this has been a collaborative process for quite some time. Our 75 drones, it's rapidly been growing, but ultimately it's been growing over time as well. What we've done, another priority in this project, is to make sure that we're saving taxpayer costs. So a lot of this, if not the majority of it, is all public-private partnerships where they're donated funds to be able to make this possible and help the community. And quite frankly, that just comes from community donors that they care about the safety of this community and they have the funds to be able to support it, just like they would support other things like hospitals and fire stations. So that's the good news on that front. In terms of any adversaries that want to try to damage a police drone, it'd be no different if they damaged a police vehicle or any other police equipment. Obviously, there's another danger component if something's flying in the air and someone tries to damage it and it causes a problem. But I will tell you this to give another point of comfort for the community is these particular drones are so advanced that they actually have parachute systems built in that if they do have some kind of malfunction or crash, the parachute turns on and it allows for a safer landing of the drone. Yes, sir.
I believe you mentioned the skyports would be done by the end of the year. What's the current progress and what needs to be done to become fully operational?
So the question is, what is the current progress on our skyports, and then when are we expected to be done? So right now we have multiple sites that have already been built. Some of the structure-purposed ones that you saw on the screen there that are essentially like kind of skyports that I referenced like the Jetsons a little bit, those are in production now. So ultimately, we're looking by the end of the year to have all 13 sites, if not the majority of the sites, operational. But with that said, we are conducting flights already. Most of them are test flights, finishing some integration, and then ultimately, in a matter of weeks, if not at least a month or so, they'll be fully operational for whatever sites are open. A couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up here.
You mentioned
Yes.
some test flights so far. What has the data showed you in regards to them being tested?
So two things. How are the test flights going? One is so far the technology is working just as expected. There's a couple tweaks that we always do when we have something new, but ultimately it's reaching our goals. But then the second part of that is because they're test flights, they're responding to calls for service and assisting. We are collecting some data, but we're not treating it as a live program.
Is there any examples of where we may have seen them be deployed?
As of now, are there any examples where you might have seen the drones flying? They're limited right now in a couple areas of the valley, but in a matter of weeks, you're probably going to see them a lot more locations. And last two questions here, yes.
With these drones, one, have you collaborated with North Las Vegas Police Department and Henderson Department in terms of these drones encroaching into their jurisdiction?
It's a good question of whether we're collaborating with our partner agencies in North Las Vegas or Henderson or elsewhere. Our intent is for this to be multi-agency and ultimately service the entire valley. So we are in early conversations with Henderson and other agencies about how we can collaborate. It's worth leveraging everything we're building in the infrastructure rather than someone starting over in another city. Same reason why we're doing this with fire. So ultimately down the road, it will hopefully be a fully collaborative project with multiple agencies. Last question, sir.
What are the aspects taken into consideration in the mapping of where these drones are going to be located across the jurisdiction?
So the question is in terms of the locations that are being selected. Our goal is to have as much coverage as possible. Now, there are some locations that are still no-fly zones, obviously, where planes are flying out of McCarran Airport, or excuse me, Harry Reid Airport, or any of the other locations. So there are some areas that we technically cannot fly, even though we've opened the airspace considerably. With that, though, our focus is on areas where we think people need more police services. So where there is either high crime or whether we also have other technologies that can help make this more effective. So think like gunshot detection sensors that we have in the community that have proven very effective. Using those tools in addition to the drones are areas that we're trying to focus on. But our goal is to eventually have coverage wherever it's needed in the valley. With that said, last question, and I'll wrap up. Sorry.
Should tourists expect to see them flying up and down the strip?
In portions, we are looking at areas that may cover the strip. So right now that's still in development, but that is our intent.
And what has been your relationship like with the casinos when you've announced, or have you announced this to them, and what you're looking to do?
Our relationship with the casinos has been excellent so far. I think we have one of the best public-private partnerships in the world when it comes to our security partners, and they're excited about us pushing the boundaries and truly building the future of policing here in Las Vegas. Thank you, folks.
They welcome the